So maybe, okay. So maybe we can ask Dr. Kunte to teach us more about the Biodiversity Atlas again sometime. For today, let us learn loads about butterflies of India. Thank you so much, sir, for this session. And yeah, over to you, sir.
All right, thanks Simran for this nice introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm also happy to kick off your first your overall citizen science initiative oriented program, which is going to run for a couple of weeks, I think, and you might have seen the whole brochure about this. So I'm very happy to kick that off because citizen science is becoming increasingly more and more popular. It's also becoming more and more influential in terms of what kind of scientific data are available to us and what kind of science that we can do because of this really increased access to information on Indian biodiversity. And this is very, very important because if you look historically, science in India, especially ecological sciences, have been a bit limited, I would say, for the amount of diversity that we have, the number of species we have, the number of landscapes that require some serious attention, both in terms of documentation of biodiversity and of course conservation in the end. That diversity of landscapes, diversity of species is extremely high. And when you consider that, if you look at how much information is actually available, it is depressingly low. Yeah. And before citizen science initiatives started in the modern form, of course, citizen science has been around for a long time, at least several decades, even in the Indian context. Various agencies such as BNHS, WWF, many other uh, NGOs, as well as other kinds of institutions, have been conducting program involving citizens in their activities and sometimes even collecting data. But of course, social media and then the platforms, online platforms that have been generated, created, produced in the last few years, about in the last 15 years, but most of them are more recent in the last 4 or 5 years. That has really changed how citizens, ordinary people, can interact with scientific data sets, how they can contribute to these data sets, and therefore what we have in terms of um, data that can be used to understand species biology, their distribution, their seasonal occurrence, and other kinds of basic sets of information, which for a long time have been missing. Even if I mentioned that citizen science itself is not new, the volume of information that was flowing in and the way it was organized had certainly been limited. And what I'm going to do today is first introduce you to the system that we have developed, the platform that we have created, and then I will tell you a little bit about how to contribute observations to this. And then we'll keep maybe last 10-15 minutes for questions. Now, in between, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Since I'll be demonstrating, I won't be able to maybe look at the chat box. But Simran, if you could kindly look at whatever messages go in the chat box, and then let me know. You can even interrupt me, no problem, and just point out any issues. Then I can address those as we go along. So don't wait until the end. If my voice is somehow going down or somehow there's some problem in the presentation, then definitely stop me right there so that I can fix those issues before I go on. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on a few things. Yeah. And I'm happy to see a pretty good response. We have 141 people so far, which is not bad for a Saturday evening when you could be doing 100 other things. I'm pleased that you are rather deciding to spend your time here looking at some butterflies and butterfly websites. So let's get started. I'll share my screen so that I can now show you how the website works. Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the website, oh, by the way, one more thing before we carry on, please mute your microphones if you're speaking so that there's not so much disturbance. especially with so many people. If you leave the microphones on, somebody or another is going to have some background noise. So let's try to avoid that. And I will do the same when you are asking questions or have comments. I'll mute my microphone if needed. So let's follow that. Okay, so our website is called Butterflies of India, but the URL, as you will see here, is I Found Butterflies. And many years ago, we started 12 years ago exactly, actually 2000, towards the end of 2009. And at that time, we gave ourselves the name Indian Foundation for Butterflies, which is now a registered trust, which is what has been running this particular website for a long time. And of course, with NCBS, my institute, and several others who are now involved in this, it's a multi-institutional program which is supported by a number of us. And I will also mention that actually the core of this website, the core of this project is really what people see, people contribute. Yeah. So if you go to extras and then contributor list of contributors, you will see several. Actually, right now, I think we are close to 2,500. I mean, yeah, 2,500 to about 3,000 users, which is a good number considering that this is just for butterflies. And these contributors and more than a dozen reviewers who on a daily basis contribute and review all the observations here is really the strength of the website and this overall platform. And before I go ahead, I will say that I'm just here giving a talk based on all the work that these people do. And of course, I also contribute and review, but I'm only one of the more than a dozen people who are on the website every day, curating all the data that come in, and of course, contributing all this information, which I'm going to display now. Okay. So this is the home page, and what you will see here is that this is part of the Biodiversity Atlas India website, or rather Biodiversity Website India platform, and there's more information available here elsewhere. I'll show that to you at the end. And somebody has, I think, put some red lines here. Can everybody see those, or only I'm seeing that?
Yes, I think some participant has done that.
Okay. Actually, even when I refresh the page, those lines still remain.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe
maybe the
figure out
participants,
how to do this. Let's see.
can you erase this again, whoever has started this?
Actually, I'll also do one more thing. I think it was Raj, somebody called Raj, who was doing something here. Anyway, so even when I go to other pages, actually those red lines remain. I don't know how they appear and how to erase them. So Simran or somebody from your group, if you could just look up in the background how to get rid of those things, it will be nice. They won't completely stop us from seeing the content, but it's certainly distracting.
Yes, sir, I
Anyway, so
am
this
looking
is
on it.
part of that Biodiversity Atlas India platform, the larger umbrella under which we have this particular website. And the umbrella actually was created later. In 2009, as I mentioned, there was a bunch of people who met and decided that we were going to start a website to compile all the information on Indian butterflies. And since that time we started. So this was the first website in the Biodiversity Atlas India platform. And only when we became very successful 4 or 5 years ago, other people started asking why not a website on moths, why not a website on odonates, dragonflies and damselflies and other organisms. So slowly we have built up this platform. Then it says Indian Foundation for Butterflies is the primary supporter of this, along with NCBS. And you can see the list of other supporters. You have news and updates. This website currently has 1,049 species pages, 365 life cycles, and I'll show you what that means. But you can see some numbers here associated with the website. And of course, there's a taxon tree, which is quite useful. I'll demonstrate that at the end as well. And one of the chief editors, Sanjay Sondi and Purnendu Roy, are other chief editors. I'll show you some other
तारों को
contributors of this.
क्यों गटर में फेंकूं
Okay, somebody's microphone is on once again. Okay, so as you can see, recently we also crossed 100,000 butterfly records images on the website. So now we are actually at 111,000. So this was a few months ago when we crossed 1 lakh images, which is an awesome resource. So as I show you through the species pages, you will see that these 110,000 butterfly images represent tremendous variation in butterfly phenotype, their wing patterns, their variation in terms of male, female, or seasonal variation. Their biogeographical distribution had some variation in colder areas versus not. So there's a bunch of information that is available here through these images, and that was a big milestone for us, which is why it's on the homepage now. So let's see how we can browse this website. So the easiest way to find things is, if you already know which species you're interested in, you can simply go to this search box and let's say I want to look for lemon pansy. So as you start typing the name, it will give you some options, and then you can go to that particular page. And here you will see this is a butterfly called lemon pansy, Junonia lemonius. And then in India, there is a single subspecies called Lemonius lemonius, and we call that Chinese lemon pansy. This was described from China initially, and the subspecies that is found in India is also from there. And then there are a number of subspecies elsewhere in the world, but not in India. And what you see here is an image gallery, and there are all sorts of images here. Images of upper side, underside. This is what we call a wet season form. If you scroll through this, you will see that some butterflies are very prominently marked on the underside, and some butterflies are not that prominently marked. So here's the difference between this butterfly and that butterfly. And this one is called dry season form, DSF. Yeah. And what we had earlier, this is a wet season form. So as you scroll through this, if you're interested in any particular image, you can simply click on it, and that image will open up in a larger size. And all the information on this website is organized in a very structured format so that it's easier to get information on every single observation. And it's also easy to um, organize and find information on this, not just find, but also organize. So what you see here is that all the identification are at the subspecies level. There's a unique media code for each image. And then it mentions the locality from which this image was taken and the date on which it was taken and by the person who took this image. Yeah. So it gives these four important, five rather, species name, media code, name of the contributor, then location from which this image was taken and the date on which this was taken. So you can just go through that and see this. If you're on a particular image, you can also use left and right arrow keys, and you can cycle through all these different images within the same species. And this is again another really wonderful dry season form where the colors, instead of being yellowish brown, it has almost turned wine red. Yeah. So it's a beautiful form which you find mostly in at the foothills of the Himalayas, sometimes in other places, but most other sightings so far have been from that area. So you start seeing all this variation, you start understanding all this variation, which is quite fantastic. And then the second tab here is early stages. Early stages in butterflies means eggs, caterpillars, and pupae. Butterflies being insects with a complete metamorphosis, meaning that they have four life stages: eggs, caterpillars, pupa, and then the adult butterfly. So the photo gallery shows images of adult butterflies, and the tab called early stages shows pictures of eggs, caterpillars, and pupae. And here the idea is similar. You can again see all the stages, and you can see this from egg stage all the way to pupal stage. So let's look at some of these images. Here's an image from Alipurduar, contributed by Subhajit Mazumdar. He has contributed a lot of images to our website. Here is an egg of this species, and then slowly here's a very tiny caterpillar, only 1 or 2 days old, and you will see it only has a few hair-like structures, but otherwise it doesn't have too much spines or anything. This is a slightly older caterpillar which is beginning to show these spines, And then the larger caterpillars become darker and they also show more pronounced spines. Yeah, so you can see all these different variations. You can see some details like what the head looks like. This one doesn't have horns. A few uh, particular groups of organisms have, oh, sorry. Simran, somehow you disabled screen sharing for me. So screen sharing has just been
No, sir, so you can do it.
okay, but it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
No, sir, it's
So,
there.
okay, I'll try it again. Otherwise, you can make me the host
Yes, sir.
and we can go ahead. Okay, all right.
And
You can see the
my
screen once again, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So here we have this caterpillar which doesn't show the horns. Some other groups of caterpillars show that. So you can all see all these fine differences between different stages of the caterpillar. And of course, you can compare caterpillars of different species by going through these and then comparing them side by side. So you will see that all these caterpillars are growing from really tiny caterpillar without any spines and other structures to a fairly large one, a darker one with spines. And then this is what its pupa looks like. And we typically encourage uploading of various views of caterpillars as well as pupae, so that from any angle you should be able to see the details of a particular stage, and then of course the variation in it. And here is a butterfly which is just coming out of the pupa. Here is the pupa, it had just come out, its wings haven't even completely unfurled yet. And you see this dark reddish maroon spot, that is meconium. It's basically the all the metabolic waste products that the pupa has accumulated. And after the butterfly emerges from the pupa, it excretes that. So it's basically excreta of the butterfly, the freshly emerged butterfly, and that is what you see here. So you can find all sorts of fun things about butterflies, both as adult butterflies and as eggs, caterpillars, and pupae. And one really important thing on our website is that you can see whoever has contributed substantial amount of information, either in terms of images of early stages or text information, they get co-authorship of the pages. So K. Saji, Abhay Soman, and Subhajit Mazumdar, for example, have contributed a substantial number of early stage images and information to this page, this particular species page, and therefore they um, have an authorship of this page. So this is the basic structure of image galleries for adult butterflies and under photo gallery and early stages there. Then the next big, really important feature of this is distributional maps. So if you asked around maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where are Indian butterflies found, people had very general answers like it's found all over India, or it is found in the Western Ghats or in the Himalayas, or very broad brush distributions like this. We did not know exactly where the butterfly occurs and where it doesn't, and in what seasons is it common or present, and in which seasons it is dormant. Yeah, so all this type of information was not available earlier. And now you can see that this butterfly does not occur at high elevations in the Himalayas. It occurs only at the foothills and some mid elevation areas, but not much where else. It's not also common in the western drier parts of the country. And of course, it does occur in these areas, but this gap means that we don't have too many contributors in this area. And you will also know the reason why. Most of the citizen scientists who watch butterflies and who contribute images are mostly from a few cities in and around the Western Ghats and southern India. And then there's a big population in New Delhi, in Ahmedabad, in Kolkata, and a few other cities, right? And then a few common areas where they normally visit. So there are two things. As the number of observations rises, we will start filling all these gaps. And that is where we really urge you to start contributing. If you are from this part of Madhya Pradesh, let's say, start contributing observations. We absolutely want observations from the most common species on our website, because most common species are going to give you more data. There's a very well-known biologist called Dick Wainwright, and he has worked on a number of things. He is very well known for his work in taxonomy and evolutionary biology. He said something very nice to me once. He said, "What is it that rare species can tell that common species can't tell about butterfly biology?" And that's a beautiful sentiment and a beautiful statement on what we need to do. You don't have to necessarily chase very rare species, or you don't necessarily have to go and watch butterflies in some remote areas, like let's say Namdapha National Park, or somewhere, some area which is far off and up in the mountains, or in some forests where there are lots of species. You can do this in your backyard. You can do this in your school or college campus. You can do this in a neighborhood park. The point is that you should go out frequently, and whatever you see, you should contribute it to platforms like this. And that's the only way we are going to start filling these gaps, right? So my suspicion is that as more and more people from all over India start contributing, I think all these gaps here that you see are going to get filled up. But based on what we know, probably this part is not going to get filled up because it's too dry for this species. And these higher areas in the Himalayas are also not going to get filled up because the species doesn't occur there, or at least it's not common there. So you can see the distributional map, and with another species I'll show you, if there are multiple subspecies, we typically color code them, and I'll show you demonstration of that. If there are some notes about identification on the website, then this identification tab will also be highlighted like this tab. But references and identification are don't have any information on this species page, so you can't click there. And under status, habitat, and habit, you will see January to December, and then all the different states from which this particular species has been reported so far. So under the distributional tab, you can see the spatial distribution, meaning the area-wise, state-wide, and other kinds of uh, distribution in space. And the way to think about this particular table is that this is distribution in time. So we call it temporal distribution. So what you see here, of course, for your own state, you can find out when it has been reported. And of course, I'm pretty sure this species occurs in other months in Odisha as well, not just in June and September, but those are the only 2 months in which we have some observations from Odisha. So these are again gaps that we want to fill. But we have fairly good data from Karnataka and from Maharashtra, from Chhattisgarh, and so on and so forth. Now, if you look at the yearly pattern, this is what you see. When you look across all the observations, this butterfly is common throughout the year, but you will see that it's much more common in some seasons than in others. In January, February, March, it's not that common, but in this is September, October, it's much more common, right? The highest numbers are found around these three. So 70, 79. So September, October, November is when this butterfly is most common. So these two tabs show you the spatial and temporal distribution of butterflies in India. And then this particular tab shows you all the plants on which this particular species feeds as caterpillars. So there are multiple families on which this is known. Acanthaceae is the most common one, and then some Malvaceae members, out of which actually Balleria and Hygrophila, these are some of the most common species of plants on which the caterpillars feed. So this is another really interesting thing. Most butterflies depend on only a small set of plants to feed as caterpillars. These are called larval host plants. Okay, so this is a relatively common species of butterfly, very widespread in the oriental region from Sri Lanka and India all the way to Japan and then Southeast Asia. So fairly wide distribution, and there is a general pattern that more widely distributed species use more host plants. There are lots of variations in this. Some widely distributed species still don't feed on so many plants, and some very narrow range species, endemic species, still use a fairly reasonably wide range of plants. But this is a good pattern to notice. And you can see the list of plants on which this particular species feeds. And this is the kind of information that you will not get on any other citizen science platform. So spatio-temporal distribution, you can get more or less on any citizen science platform nowadays. But we pride ourselves in running a platform where you are not only getting information on uh, occurrence in space and time, but you're also getting a lot of information about the biology of the species. So with larval host plants, you can understand the interaction of butterflies with caterpillars. There are also tabs where you can look at information on nectar plants, and I will show it to you later if you have time. But we at least have information on whether a particular species feeds on certain plants, meaning it interacts with those plants in a certain way, either as larval host plants or as nectar plants. And then, of course, we have information on predators, what different kinds of insects and invertebrates eat butterflies. That kind of information is also being accumulated. So it's not only sees spatial and temporal occurrence, it's these other aspects of the biology of butterflies that we also compile on this website. And this is actually more important, or at least as important as understanding the spatio-temporal occurrence of butterflies. Because if you want to conserve a particular species, you need to know what are the other species in its environment that this butterfly interacts with. And if you have that information, if you know in which season it breeds and what plants it breeds on, what are the different predators that eat the caterpillars and things like that, then you can protect that population, protect that species much better than if you didn't have all this information. So this website is a full package for everybody, from people who are interested in butterflies as a passing hobby, because they can see lots and lots of images here, to people who want to seriously study them, or people who want to conserve this species. And it could be also user groups like, let's say, a neighborhood naturalist group or something else who want to attract butterflies to their neighborhood garden. So it need not be naturalists, they could also be nature lovers, and they can still use this website to get the information that they need to make a nice butterfly habitat in their neighborhood, for example. So that kind of information you may not get from most other platforms, but we do actively compile that kind of information on this website. And it's not just the list, you can also scroll down and you will see that we have pictures of the plants as well on which the butterflies feed. So this is a particular plant called Balleria. This is Buxiflora. There are other species which are also commonly planted in gardens. So Balleria is a very common host plant for this. So if you're looking for caterpillars of this species, you also have now a visual of a plant on which you will look for caterpillars. So this is what that flower of that species looks like. It's a small uh, uh, herby plant, and then this is Balleria Cristada. This is actually a plant which you will find in a lot of places in and around human habitations. This is often a common garden plant. From the flower, you might actually recognize this plant. So from this, you will know which plants to plant to attract caterpillars of this, or generally where to find caterpillars if you're looking for them. And this is a great tool for students, especially really young students. All they know is butterflies. But if you want to teach them that butterflies are not alone in their ecosystem, they actually actively interact with various kinds of organisms, from plants to other insects and birds and lizards, which might eat them, to other organisms which might actually help them as well, not just eat them. So this sort of information is very nice to show from this particular website. Yeah, and you can just browse through this and see all the different kinds of plants with which this species interacts. This Justicia procumbens is also a nectar plant, meaning a plant from which adult butterflies take nectar. So you will see that there are other species of butterflies taking nectar from this. So here is how we actually show all the nectar plants and larval host plants. So these are the basic tabs in which you can get all the information. But what our website does really, really well is navigation. on any citizen science platform, you don't want to get stuck on a particular page and then go back and forth on various pages. So here what we have done is we have these taxonomic breadcrumbs on top. Yeah, we call them taxonomic breadcrumbs because if you know this expression, or if you know this idea, if they're small breadcrumbs, then you can follow the breadcrumbs to find something, right? That is the idea here. If you're on a particular species, let's say lemon pansy, which is under Junonia lemonia. So Junonia is the genus name. If you want to see all the species which occur under this genus, you can click on Junonia and it will take you to the page of Junonia. So this is a genus page, and you can scroll through this. If you know what you have seen is a pansy, but you don't know which one, or if you know a lemon pansy and you're curious about finding out more about its relatives, and this will be great for people who are either just exploring butterflies or who know butterflies and want to find out something related, then instead of going to search and then finding the species, you can just click through this. So we were on the lemon pansy page earlier. There are 6 species of pansies in India, and you can see them here. If you're a novice, you don't know how to identify butterflies, you don't know the distinguishing characters, but you know something is a pansy, you can just go to the species page and say, oh, this is probably what I was looking at earlier. And then you have the species page for that thing. Or if you want to go to something else, let's say you have something which is, let's say this particular butterfly, great egg fly. There are 2 subspecies in India, Bolina jacintha, which is called Oriental great egg fly, and Bolina bolina, which is Sunda great egg fly. And the reason why we call this Oriental great fly is because this particular species occurs from Sri Lanka, India, to China, and I think even Japan, and then down to Borneo, up to Borneo, from Java and Sumatra and all those islands in Southeast Asia, I think all the way to Borneo. So you can see where this particular subspecies occurs. And the idea is the same. Here you can see this is a female. It has these white patches. This is in Great Nicobar Islands. And then this is another female which does not have those white patches. It looks completely different, but both are females. And here is a third female, which looks much more like what you see on the mainland. Yeah. So this is the first species that occurs in India, Bolina bolina, and this is the second species. And you can see the upper side and underside of this butterfly also looks very different. Males typically look like this, black with white spots, which are edged with purple iridescence. And then you have, this is the underside and this is the female. Typically they're black with a row of white spots on the hind wing and some on the forewing. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. And again, you can scroll through this and look at all the variation that it's seen here. This is a strange butterfly. This is an aberration of a male. It doesn't have those white spots that you saw in some other images. So there were supposed to have been 3 large spots, or rather 1 small spot and 2 large spots here, 1 large one on the hind wing, 1 on the forewing. But those are, the one on the forewing here is completely missing, and this one is highly restricted. So this is the kind of variation you begin to see by browsing through all of this. And here under distribution, you will see that throughout the majority of the distribution in India, it's 1 species, Jacintha, subspecies, I mean, Jacintha, the Oriental great egg fly. And only in the Nicobar Islands, you get this subspecies, Bolina, the Sunda great egg fly, right? So then it shows you that if you want to see that particular species, you'll have to go to Nicobars. In all the rest of India, you will see 1 subspecies, yeah? So this is the kind of information that you get. And of course, if you want to know exactly what spot this is in Rajasthan, it's Kukra. And this is actually a great feature, which I don't think too many people know about. But if you want to know what other species have been known from Kukra, or how many other species have been known from any other area, which is on this map, you can just go through this. And if you're interested in any particular location, you can just click on that and find out what other species occur there. So recently we have been getting a lot of images a lot of observations from Chhattisgarh. So in Bastar district, there's this national park called Kangair Valley National Park, and a lot of observations are coming from there. So until 2, 3 years ago, Chhattisgarh was a big black hole of information for us. We didn't have too many observations. We didn't know what species occur there and what species occur there commonly. But in the last 3, 4 years, there have been at least about 10 people who have been contributing an amazing amount of information, an amazing number of observations from Chhattisgarh. So we have learned a lot about Chhattisgarh butterflies now. And Kangair Valley is one of the areas from where we have a lot of information. So if you are going to Kangair Valley, let's say, and you want to know what species to expect there, you can just click on Kangair Valley and it will give you a list of all the species which occur there. And of course, this is where it occurs. This is very close to Jagdalpur, and this is Kangair Ghati National Park. And you can zoom out to see exactly where that is. And this works for any of the localities that you saw below that map. So if you're interested in any of the locations, just click on that location. It will show you where it is. And then it will give you a list of species that occur in that area. So Badamia exclamationis, which is brown owl, Bibasis sena, which is um, Bibasis sena is, let's click on that, orange-tailed owl. So you can see all these species, you get the complete list of all the species which occur there. And if you want to save this, you can save this on your phone, mobile phone, for example, before you go to that area so that you can use this as your field guide. So you don't necessarily need to even buy any field guides or don't have to worry about mobile apps. You can just simply save this page and then go through this page when you're in the field to find out what to expect here. Yeah. So you can get the complete list of species which have been recorded from that area. And then if you want to know anything about a particular species, once you're there, you say, oh, I think I just saw this butterfly today. So let me find out more about this species. Then you can click on that image and it will take you to the species page for that species, right? So this is called vagrant. Again, there's a single subspecies. You can see early stages. You can see all sorts of information here. And then you can browse through this. If you want to know what other species occur in this particular subfamily, you can click on the subfamily. On top here, it says Heliconini. That's the subfamily name. And you will see all the species that occur in that particular subfamily, and you can again browse through this to find out what particular species that you want to know. Yeah, and this is a beautiful species. I'll click on it just because it's a fun species. There are 3 subspecies in India. One is in the Himalayas and Northeast India, one in Andamans, one in Nicobars. And if you click on distribution, you will also see where the species has been observed as given in our database. Yeah, so it's known from central Himalaya eastward, and also quite common in the Northeast India. And if you look at its seasonal occurrence, you will see that again it's commonest in October, and then before and after October, its numbers go down. And during the monsoon, during the rainy season in the Northeast, it's not very common. Yeah, so here now you have learned something about what are the best seasons to watch this butterfly. So if you want to plan a trip to a particular place and you want to plan it at a time when there are the maximum number of species that you can see, then this is where you find out whether in a particular season you will see particular species or not. And accordingly, you can plan your trip. So this is not only a good image gallery, it also shows you what are the best seasons to see a particular species, what are the best seasons to see butterflies in general in a particular area, and it also shows you where to go to see a particular species. Yeah, so there's a bunch of information on this, and it's already 6:43, so I should start wrapping up. But there are all this type of information that you can see, and you can also see, you can get a full list of butterfly larval host plants. So if you hover over butterfly biology, there's larval host plants, plant butterfly associations, and predation. Under the first tab, larval host plants of Indian butterflies, you will get a list of butterflies and their larval host plants. So as you're browsing through this website, you can just find out what particular species is of your interest. You can get the list of plants on which it occurs. If you click on this link, it will take you to the butterfly species page. If you hover here and say plant butterfly associations, then it will give you a reverse list by plant species. So if you want to know what plant species should you plant in a garden to attract maximum number of species, you can find out species which have a lot of species listed under it. So this Hygrophila auriculata, the plant that I showed you earlier, attracts several species. So Zizilla hylax, Junonia albana, Atletus, Hierta, Iphyta, Lemonius, Orithia. So there are at least 6 or 7 species which feed on this particular plant, right? So that would be a very good plant for attracting butterflies to your neighborhood. If you're interested in, let's say, this Holarina, this is a wild plant, but I'll point out another plant which is quite common. Actually, I already know what I can show you. So Caparaceae, these are called capers. This is a fantastic family, supports a lot of caterpillars of butterflies um, uh, from this particular group of butterflies called gulls and wanderers. So if you are looking at, let's say, Caparis zelanica, this one here, Caparis zelanica is the plant, and these are all the species of butterflies that feed on it, right? So you know which plants to plant to attract a specific kind of butterflies. So this is a nice reverse list. The previous list I showed you was organized by butterflies and their larvalose plants. This is a reverse list where it shows you the larvalose plant and all the species of butterflies that feed on it. So this is a nice resource for you if you're interested in that kind of information. And especially if you want to develop a butterfly garden, this is the page that will help you a lot. And then if you look at predation, for example, this will show you all the images on our website, which show what kinds of organisms eat what kinds of butterflies. Yeah. So here is a shield. Here is an assassin bug, which is eating a caterpillar of the blue tiger. Yeah. Here is a spider eating the orange owlet butterfly. Here is another kind of spider eating common gull butterfly, and so on and so forth. This is actually one of my favorite images showing predation. This is a green beater eating a male of Danaidic fly. And I actually often use this image to show predation. So you can find a bunch of images like this. This, in fact, you will have to scroll down, up and down this page a lot to find out. So all the predation images are shown here. This is a praying mantis eating the common crow butterfly, and so on and so forth. So it's a wonderful resource. Crows typically you would imagine is too large a bird. It's not a predatory bird like, let's say, some other birds are predatory. It's an omnivore. It will eat anything it will find. But here, amazingly, it has caught this butterfly and it's going to eat it. Yeah. So you will learn a whole bunch of things that you didn't expect about butterflies and their predators on this page. Here's a gecko eating the common evening brown, and this is clearly next to a light on a wall in a house, right? So all sorts of wonderful observations are given here. So this is another really interesting aspect. And then of course, oh, this is actually important. If you want to know more about what else this platform does, scroll through all the pages given here under outreach and extras. We give out awards every year. Last year it hasn't been possible because of the pandemic, but we give out contributor of the month and contributor of the year awards. Here's a list of contributors, butterfly watching hotspots, and then our progress of the website through time, publications of Indian Foundation for Butterflies. We have published several books and papers. So you can browse through all of this. Under outreach, among the main things that we have done recently is biodiversity marathons, which are sort of data collection and curation marathons. There's no actual running. What we do is that we get a bunch of people together. We take them on nature trails. We show them butterflies, plants, other insects, birds, whatever we see in that morning. So it's a nice natural history walk. And then we get them in a seminar hall and we show them this website, how to contribute information to this website, and so on and so forth. So that is the program that we call Biodiversity Marathons. So it's a marathon to collect and curate information and to train people in using the citizen science platform. So that's one really good project that we do, or set of activities, outreach activities that we do. And I'll be very happy at some point to visit Isa Berhampur and then give you, we can go on a nature trail and then we can work together with some project. We can maybe create a list of species of Isa Berhampur and maybe even start some project on your campus. And I'll be very pleased if you do that. So let's talk about it a little bit later. We are also developing a mobile app, by the way, through which you will be able to contribute data. Right now, we don't have a mobile app. We will launch it probably in the next 3-4 months. And that's going to be a fabulous app. You will be able to contribute data. You'll be able to browse through species pages, and that will work offline as well. Website, unfortunately, cannot be accessed if you're offline, but the mobile app can be used offline. So you can use that as a field guide. You can use that to contribute data, to organize your own observations, and so on and so forth. The second major thing that we did recently was this National Butterfly campaign. And I don't know whether any of you participated in this, but nearly 60,000 people from all over India and from every single state and union territory participated in this. We received a tremendous response, and we have generated a report based on this, which has been submitted to the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. And hopefully, the government will take up notification of a national butterfly. So we have national animal, national bird, and so on and so forth, but we don't have a national butterfly. So this campaign was to get input from people about what they think is a good species to notify as a national butterfly, and then you will get information on this. This is now done, of course, but hopefully there'll be exercises like this in which you can participate in the future. And these were the 7 species which were shortlisted, which people voted on. So it was a very nice effort involving public from all over India on and around the theme of butterflies. So that was wonderful. And then Big Butterfly Month was something that a bunch of organizations, nearly 50 of them, organized last year in the month of September. And we were part of that as well. And in fact, this was one of the main platforms on which we compiled all the information. I gave several talks as part of this. So we keep running this kind of outreach program. So this is something that you could explore. Under conservation, there are at least 2 pages that I really want you to visit. One is Butterfly Conservatories of West Bengal, and then Butterfly Conservatory of Goa. If you click on these pages, you will see all the wonderful work that people are doing. And this is the kind of work we would like to see done more and more widely in India, with the help of people, with the help of government agencies, with the help of NGOs, citizen groups, and so on and so forth. So this particular one, this particular exercise in West Bengal is run by NatureMates. It's a wonderful NGO based in Kolkata, and Arjun Basu Roy is the head of that particular NGO. And you can see that they have developed several butterfly parks. The one in Banabitan is one of the most well-known, one of the most frequently visited. They have a nice lab where they grow butterflies from eggs and caterpillars and then release them outside in this garden. Here's a little boy holding this butterfly, the lime swallowtail, which had just come out of the pupa. It's not flying yet, and then after its wings are dry, this butterfly would take off. So it's a fun place to visit for kids as well as adults. And then there's a bunch of information. They have nice posters and so on. This is how it started. Now they have a dome, very green area, beautiful butterflies there. Here is Urchin Paul, who is now a PhD student in my lab, showing young students around, telling them about butterflies and so on and so forth. And one of our biodiversity marathons was actually in this place. And this is me giving a talk in front of all the students after the nature trail. And they have this in multiple places. There's one butterfly park at Rajabhat Khawa, which is right outside the Buxar National Park and Tiger Reserve in Northeast India. So these are the sorts of projects that we also encourage on our website. All right, so I'll very quickly tell you where to and how to contribute your observations. So you can click on this particular tab, the second tab, Submit Observations. When you click on that tab, you will see there's a bunch of information on what to do and what not to do while you are contributing. So it says that you have to register yourself with a name given as your uh, uh, formal name as given on an ID card, and then it shows what kind of information we would like, and then it shows how the information is organized on the images. It will show you that name of the copyright holder is added on when the images are published on the website. So if you're going to contribute to this website, do read this page. It has very good guidelines on what you should take care of while you are submitting observation. Even if the page is fairly long, because we wanted to give all the information that you need, it's not complicated. Submitting observations is not complicated. And if you click on submit observations, this particular link given here, so the whole page is just to describe what care you need to take while submitting observations. And the first point is go online on this page to submit observations, and then you can create an account, so you can register. And logging in using Google, Facebook, Twitter is not recommended. It may not work for everybody. But if you register, then it, of course, it works. And I have an account, so I will log in as I have a editor account, of course. So you won't see all these menu items as a contributor. Reviewers will see some more. Editors will see all the menu items. But this is basically an observation form. So what the first step is to add an image. If you click on an image, add image, it will you can choose from your desktop what you want to choose. And let me see, I'll just randomly pick up something. Let's see, let me pick up this particular image. Actually, this might be too large to upload. It is probably several MB, but let me see if I can find a smaller image which I can upload. Let me go to a recent trip where I do know there are smaller images. So typically I resize images to maybe 1500 pixels wide so that it's not too large a file. Otherwise, I'm just using up too much bandwidth. So let's go to Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, for example. Okay, so this is Achyotopsico, the tonic oyster, and this was at Bhimeshwari. So I'm going to go and start typing here. This is the species name. If you don't know the species name, you can leave this blank. It's not necessary that you add taxon name. The mandatory fields are date and location. Those two things we absolutely need because we can fill in everything else. We cannot know the date and the location, exact location, especially if your camera does not record those things, or you have not actually used the location and then other features of your camera to record the location and time, in which case we do need that input by the user. And then taxon name, if you know it, great. If you don't know it, you can leave that blank, no problem. Location here is Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary. So you will see Bhimeshwari Fishing Camp is where I mentioned this is at Bhimeshwari. So you can then choose Bhimeshwari Fishing Camp, Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary. And gender, I do see that this is M, meaning that it's a male. In the field, I had already noted that down. So I can now choose male here. And if there are any notes about habitat notes and so on and so forth, great. When you register, your copyright name will automatically be picked up from your registration. So you don't have to input your name. All you needed to do was select date, select location, and then you're done. Here I knew the name of the species and oh, date I haven't chosen. This is 11/25. So this was 2020 November and 25 November 2020. Yeah, that was when this image was taken. So then I submit. Okay. Now, if I want to submit multiple observations from this place, I should click on keep details for the next observation, and then I can simply choose another image. Let's say, what other? Okay, here is a nice species, Black Raja. Oh, this file is too big. Let's find another image, something that's small enough to be. Okay, so this is Chiladus largus, which means this is lime blue, and this is on the same day. And since I know this species, I'm going to add the name. And if you don't know the subspecies, you can just choose the species name. Here, there's only one subspecies in India, so I'm going to choose subspecies. And this is a male again, so I will include that and submit the observation. And I can keep details for the next observation. After that, you just scroll down, you check all the details, and if everything is in order, you just click this button saying that I have confirmed all the details. And these are the two that we have just contributed. So once you confirm the details, once the red text that was here turns blue, then this is in our review system. So as a contributor, you won't be able to see what I'm going to show you now, but as an editor, I can go to the review observations page, and here now I can see the images that I've just contributed. I agree with this particular um, submission. So I'm just going to say agree there. Everything else seems fine. This is also okay. And this is not my observation. This is something that somebody else had contributed. And these are all the different reviewers who have already looked at this. Vikas Madhav, Datta Prasad Sawant, Sarvesh Abhyankar, these are our reviewers. And they've already agreed with the identification that this is white orange tip. So I'm also going to agree with it because that identification is correct. Now my name is also added. So the beauty, the strength of this website is that before these observations go on the website, these are already peer reviewed, which is not the case on any other citizen science platform. iNaturalist or other platforms where you can contribute, there the images go on the website first, and then they may get reviewed or they may not get reviewed. So if the image is not identified or the species is not identified, you're not going to know what that is. Or if it is misidentified, even then you're not going to know that that's a misidentification. Whereas on our website, any image that appears online has already been peer reviewed, which is not to say that people may not sometimes make mistakes here, but at least majority of the images that you see on our website, I would say 99.9% of the images that you see on our website, that many observation are already reviewed by experts in the field, and therefore it's unlikely that you will see um, errors of identification or something else on our website. So it's the reason why we call this a peer reviewed website is because it's already peer reviewed before you start seeing observation, and that's a real strength. So we can just scroll through this. Oh, this is a very beautiful image of the egg of this Indian palm bob, and this again the identification is correct. So I'm just going to agree to that. Here is a female laying eggs, and that's again a nice observation. So I can just scroll through all of this, and then this is ready for import. Yeah. So here I can just go on top and I will click on import, and you will see the images which have just recently come into the platform. And here this is the image that I had contributed. Everything seems to be in order. Here the last time, if I want to change something, I can. And I just realized that I had not chosen seasonal form for this. So I'm going to click on this. This is a dry season form because of this dark brown patch that you see. So based on that patch, I know it's a dry season form. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to choose dry season form under seasonal forms, and I'm going to import this. Yeah. So when I hit import, the image is automatically formatted. And then if I click on actually, you don't need to see this. I can go to the species page, and you will see that this particular image appears on the website. Yeah. So the media code for this is GC674. This had just been added, right? So on the website, you will see an observation from Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, Bhimeshwari Fishing Camp, and this is the media code of that observation. This is a male, there's nothing else to add, this is okay. So from the image that I contributed, it added these black borders, added all the information, in different corners, and this is now ready. I will skip this plant image, which somebody has just done. This identification is also correct. So I have not done this earlier, but I will just add this now. This is an adult female. Everything seems to be in order. So I'm going to import that and so on and so forth. So you can very quickly go through all of this. And then let me do this as well. This is again the Tawny Coster. It's a mating pair, and this I could import. This is Boticus, the P blue, and everything else seems to be in order. So I'm just going to do this. Yeah, this is how the peer review works on our website. And as soon as we do peer review, we import the images and they're published on the website. And this is, by the way, this particular image, this is contributed by Archana Sahu from Chhattisgarh. As I mentioned recently, we have been getting a lot of observations from there. And this is how the entire website functions. Here is another one from Chhattisgarh. This is plain tiger caterpillar. So I will choose that particular species. This is not an adult as given by the contributor. It's a caterpillar. So I'll choose that and then import it, and then it's done. So all three images are now imported, formatted, and published on the website. So this is how it works. If you want to go back and change something that you have contributed, you can go back and do that. So it's a very, very nice platform where you can contribute, where you can browse, you can learn a bunch of things about the website. And a great thing about this particular platform, as I just mentioned, is that we are going to launch a new mobile app and a revamped website. So this was developed some time ago, actually exactly 7 years ago, nearly 8 years ago. So it does not look like a modern website. The homepage is fairly basic, but the new platform, there'll be quizzes, there'll be slideshows that you can look through the website. You can browse through some large format images. So if there's a very tiny kid or a baby which will just like to see images but doesn't wouldn't know all the details, and of course wouldn't know how to click through the website and so on, but it will be a nice exposure to butterflies because we'll have some beautiful butterflies using this slideshow. So we're going to add a lot of features which are not on the current website, and these will be a lot of interactive features which will be useful for a whole range of users, not just serious naturalists, but also casual observers of nature, casual uh, observers of butterflies, to even very young kids who may not know enough to know about species, but who will still like to see great looking butterflies, very colorful butterflies. So we'll have resources for all these people. And that website also, we hope, will be launched in the next 3-4 months, along with the mobile app. So there are great developments happening, and we are really looking forward to this next phase in which everybody will be able to contribute much more and also enjoy the website a lot, as well as the beauty and diversity of butterflies. So with that, I will stop. And again, thanks a lot for being here. If we have time for questions, I can take some questions.
I think we have little questions, like small ones. We can take them.
Okay.
So I am honestly overwhelmed. This was so amazing.
I'm
So
glad to
now
hear
my
that.
gallery knows what to do with those pictures I've clicked. Because usually I used to be like, okay, what if my identification is not right? So where do I go? And that usually stopped me from contributing.
Right, right. Yeah. Good thing is that you don't need to know the species to be able to contribute to these citizen science platforms. So you should just go ahead and contribute. And I think there are multiple options, but our website is one of the best. And I would say ours is quite unique because ours is one of the few platforms which is also run through India. Most of the other popular platforms are based in the US or somewhere else, whereas our platform is designed by Indians. It is hosted in a national institute and is run by Indians, from designing the website to doing peer review and everything else. So it's actually, this is a point I did not make earlier. Most of the time, whenever there are big developments in science or anything else, you see these things happening somewhere else. Yeah, there are great things happening in Europe, great things happening in the US, great things happening in Japan or Singapore or somewhere else. This is one platform that we have built indigenously, completely. There is no foreign participation in building the platform. It's completely our own. And it works beautifully. We have more observations than any platform anywhere else. We have a much more enthusiastic community on this platform than anywhere else. So it's actually a wonderful thing, not only as a platform, but also as a community. And that community, I think, is a big strength of why our website is so popular and why is there so much support for this particular platform, and why we have contributed to biology of butterflies through all of this. There are all these reasons which make this platform quite special. So I quickly see a question in the chat box. Is there funding helping body if you want to construct a butterfly garden at our campus? um, we can help you with information through those pages, and of course we have our members who can help you build a butterfly garden through all the information we have access to. Paresh Suri is one of our members, and he has quite a lot of experience in building butterfly gardens. He can help you with this. Arjun Basura and the Nature Mates team in Kolkata has a lot of experience. There are other people spread all over India who can help you with this. But yes, we do have a lot of support. In this, we don't have funding. Funding you will have to organize your own. But if you go to your local government, whether it's a city or any town, whatever governments you have, I think they will be quite keen on supporting you with this. I'm pretty sure if you go to them with a proposal, they would like to allocate some space, and they would like to perhaps even put up some funding for this. And typically, government agencies which look after gardens or forests, forest departments is another great place to go to. Even if forest department largely looks after forested areas, they do want to start things like butterfly gardens. In fact, there is Balleria Butterfly Park in Bengaluru, which was done by Forest Department, and they're maintaining it really well. It's a beautiful resource to watch butterflies, to learn about butterflies before you start going further afield on your own in forested areas. You could go to these butterfly parks first. So certainly, forest departments and agencies which look after parks in urban areas, they will be very, very interested in doing this. And I think that will be the best starting point. Beyond that, if you have large area, let's say an NGO had some land, or some other college campuses, universities like ICERs have have campuses on which you want to develop a butterfly garden, then of course your college or your institution, I'm pretty sure ICER Berhampur will be very happy to see a butterfly garden on their campus. So you should just use all the resources available on the website, use all the expertise available with people like me and Paresh and Arjun and others, and then start a butterfly park. It will be very nice. And then you should continue to contribute from that butterfly park. So don't just take, you shouldn't be a taker. Yeah, you should be a contributor as well. So definitely do start from the website, start using resources available with this platform, and then contribute in return so that you will get a lot. Um and then contribute, you will get a lot through your contributions as well. Ultimately, you have to understand that communities don't build without individuals being contributing, right? Individuals being part of a larger group. And of course, just as uh, you have learned from this platform, somebody else is going to learn tomorrow. And that is how this community has grown to. If you look at our website, we have more than 1 million site visits. We have more than 300,000 devices visiting. So that's mobile phones and tablets and computers all included. But 3 lakh visitors, unique visitors, is not a small number. So this is very widely used. I know people from all over the world use this. Even if the website is Butterflies of India, people from all over the world use this, because anybody going to, let's say, somewhere in Southeast Asia, or not just in India, will be able to use this, and they will still get a lot of information. And once we start implementing quizzes and slideshows on the website, there will be even more people who will have an interest in visiting this site, because it doesn't have to be necessarily Indian species that they need to know about, but there will be information on butterflies in general. So all these things are happening. That will be good too. And we are always happy to support efforts like Butterfly Gardens. So do get us in touch, and I can put you in touch with the right person. But Paresh Suri and Arjan Basuroy and Nature Mates are on Facebook. You can find them there and ask them about how to start this as well. Yeah. So Simran, why don't you select some questions and ask me rather than
Yes,
me going
sure.
through the chat box? You can consolidate questions and ask them on behalf of people. You can mention their names so that they'll be happy that you took that.
So, Sir Rahul had asked that why and how seasonal changes in affect butterfly morphology, and does this change also affect on genital morphology?
Sure. So I'll address this question, but this is about butterfly biology rather than the platform. So what you can do, Simran, is choose questions between how to use this platform and the strengths and perhaps some limitations, and then butterfly biology, so that we cover a range of topics from that everybody will be interested in. Yeah. So the next question, maybe see if there is a question about the platform itself, how people can contribute, what they can do, and so on and so forth. So anyway, your question, or whoever asked the question, was how does seasonal occurrence change affect what?
The seasonal change affect butterfly morphology, and does
Morphology.
this change also affect its genital morphology?
Sure. Genital morphology, as far as we know, is not affected, but uh, morphology itself is affected a lot. The most prominent being in wing patterns. So I showed you with lemon pansy that there's a dry season form and a wet season form. In the wet season, the wings are marked much more prominently. There are lots of fine markings, and then the dry season forms tend to be quite plain. They tend to be pale yellow brown without too many markings, whereas the wet season form has all these very fine markings on it. Yeah, so wing patterns are affected almost in every single case. You pick up any species, there are going to be at least small differences. There are rare species like, let's say, common Mormon, in which dry and wet season forms don't occur. You have one male form and then three female forms in India, and there's a lot of variation in those male and female phenotypes, wing patterns. But you don't have dry and wet season forms or any other kinds of forms. If you go to the Himalayas, instead of dry and wet season form, we call them spring brood and summer brood. Yeah. So in different times of the year when these are active, you will see that there is some variation in the wing patterns. So wing patterns are invariably affected in the majority of species, I would say. In some species, they're defined as dry season and wet season forms, or spring brood and summer brood, and so on and so forth. But wing patterns are affected. In some cases, even the morphology is affected. This is something quite well known now in species like common evening brown or bush browns. This has been studied in a few species, not in India so much, but definitely outside, where we do know that in the dry season form, the butterflies are in reproductive diapause, meaning that they don't reproduce in certain seasons. Even if they occur as adults, their reproduction will be depressed, meaning that they will be flying around, perhaps they will even be feeding, but they will not be reproductively active. And at that time, females don't produce eggs, and therefore their abdomens are not as heavy as they will be when they are in when they're reproductively active. My student actually studied this, Vaishali Bhaumik. She is a PhD student in my lab, and she has studied dispersal and migration in butterflies. And what she has shown is that when butterflies are migrating, and these migrations are seasonal, during migration, they don't reproduce at all. They won't produce any ova, the eggs. Whereas in the reproductive season, at the reproductive phase, they will be reproducing and therefore producing a lot of eggs. And then their abdomens tend to be very heavy. And one of the outcomes of this seasonal variation in morphology is that when butterflies are undertaking these very long distance flights, their abdomens are less heavy, and therefore it's easier for them to fly. doing these long flights than other times when they're reproductively active, and therefore you will see that their abdomens are heavy, they don't fly very long, but they are ready to legs as they encounter plants. So all these different effects on the morphology of butterflies with seasons. And that's something that we do know for some species, but not for others. So students from ICERS or any other college, for example, can undertake these small projects on your campuses or nearby in some forested areas with adequate permits taken, of course, for research. But you can take up these small projects and then understand, learn more about butterfly biology. So this is something that you should potentially do, not just contribute this sort of information to the website, but also take up butterfly biology in a more serious way. And that will be really good for your careers. Whether you're going to be a biologist or not, this is something that is quite nice to do. You learn a lot in the process, and there is great satisfaction when you do that. And actually, I'll finish this point with this last thing that I mentioned. Satisfaction is the biggest driver in all these citizen science platforms. It has been a great satisfaction for me having built this platform with all the contributors all over the country. And it's a great satisfaction when you contribute to something bigger than you. And that's something that I hope is driving a lot of contributions um, on our platform. It's not the awards like contributor of the year, but it's the satisfaction of having contributed something and having learned something for the area in which you work, and having contributed something that is going to be useful to the forest department or other agencies in your area, which can use your information and put it to good use in conserving butterflies. So you should remember that part of citizen science contributions as well. Yeah, any other questions?
So there's a quick one. Dave Bagdi asked, does the distribution map show the data collected through ifoundbutterflies.org or other platforms as well?
So currently, sorry, was there anything more to the question? I
I
thought,
think I'll add another question in
sure.
this. Harsha asked if a researcher is interested in using this citizen science data,
Mhm.
that could be access to media, GPS locations, and all. To answer a question, how does one go and get access to this data for his own research?
Wonderful. Two very relevant questions about the platform, and I will answer them both. In case I forget as I go through these questions, remind me that there are two components to this. So currently, the distributional data shown on the website is only from Butterflies of India platform. So only observations which have been contributed to the website. So all the distributional maps that you see on the website are data from the website. We can't display observations from other websites. I mean, we can import data from other platforms and show it, but so far we have not done that. So all the spot records you see on the map are exclusively contributed to the website. Now, going forward, when we unleash the updated platform, the upgraded platform in a few months, we will be able to import data from other platforms as well, such as GBIF. GBIF is Global Biodiversity Information Facility. It's a it's a multinational platform supported by many governments, and ultimately, most of the citizen science data end up in the GBIF repository. So we are hoping to be able to import data from there and then contribute it to the uh, website in our platform, so that we'll be able to display observations from all the sources, not just from our website. Now, it may not matter in the long term because ultimately the biggest data we have around are from our website. So of course we'll have more data, but the proportion of data from other platforms may be reasonably small, is what I suspect. But we are happy to include those data as well, so that we have a larger catchment for data from which people can benefit. So yes, we have long-term plans to include data from other sources. Then the next question was, how do you obtain data? So currently we have kept the data under embargo because a lot of people use the platform to compile data for their own projects. So there are local projects, for example, the Bangalore Butterfly Club is a small club in Bangalore area, and they have contributed a lot of observation, especially from Bangalore, but also from nearby areas. So if you want to use their data, of course, this has been done over the years. The Bangalore Butterfly Club has been active for the last about 10 years, and they have contributed tremendous amount of data from the Bangalore area. So I think it's unfair for somebody else to use the data without them being involved. Ideally, at least the major contributor from there should be involved as authors in this paper. So our philosophy is that people who contribute data should also be involved in, if not data analysis, at least in the publication of data. It just shouldn't be people who get the data and then analyze and publish it, but also the contributors. So it's a more democratic approach to collecting and then using data. So there we have kept this embargo. So if you want to use data from Bangalore, then we will ask people who have contributed data from Bangalore whether it's okay with them to completely give away data that somebody else will analyze and publish. And if that's okay, then we can give you the data. So you can just email me or other editors from the website, and then they will email you the Excel sheet or tab delimited file from which you can do all the analysis. If you want data on all of India, then you will have to you will have to collaborate with the Butterflies of India platform, meaning the consortium. And we say consortium, which includes ideally everybody. And this is where the contributor list is useful. So Butterflies of India consortium can be included as an author, and then of course you can do all the work and we publish it together. So we have that model right now. Going forward, we will have completely Creative Commons data as well. So depending on um, what license people use, you will be able to download all the data, part of the data which is under embargo, and so on and so forth. So that's the model we are using for license. But if you email me, I can tell you what data you could use, and which collaborators will work with you on this. But yes, data are available. We have a policy of sharing data. Whoever asks, and people have asked about data, and we have shared it in the past. Several publications have actually emerged from that. And we are always looking for more and more people who will use the data to look for patterns and so on and so forth. And periodically, every few years, we will be contributing this to JBIF. So if you want historical data, you will get it from GBIF, and of course you can get it from our website as well. But if you want latest data, then of course you can talk to people who have generated data, and you can then use it. And the mobile app will actually be great for PhD students or anybody who wants to do a project for a few years and then use the data to write a paper, in which case they'll be able to keep their data, have priority access to their data without losing the data, which is not possible in a place like, let's say, iNaturalist, where once you contribute data, anybody can use these data, and everybody have equal access to it, which is normally a great thing. But if you are going to continue to generate data over some time, so that you will have a good data set with which you can write a good paper, then other platforms do not protect that. The data are open right from the beginning. But that is not how a PhD project can happen, right? You want some assurance that you will be able to publish that. Otherwise, you are going to be a host, and some parasite is going to use that data. So to protect our contributors and their interest in using and publishing data, we have this unique model of uh, uh, letting the contributors decide whether they want to share the data without authorship, with authorship, and with embargo. So that is how we work.
So the next question is again about something similar to, I would say, butterfly biology, which is, are the morphological features at larval stage distinct enough to distinguish between species as can be done at the adult stage?
In many cases, it is possible. Perhaps in every single case, it's possible to identify species from caterpillars. It's just that people haven't studied caterpillars in as much detail in India as they have studied adult butterflies. So in many cases, just by looking at a caterpillar, we can tell, but it's not always possible. We might ask for more angles, some detailed shots, some close-up shots, and so on. But in most cases, species can be identified from caterpillars. Yes. Yeah.
And
So, Simran, before you take the next question, I just see one question here from Shubham CK. Is this lecture available afterwards? And maybe when you're closing this program, you can mention whether this is going to get uploaded on YouTube or something. If you're not going to upload it, I will be able to upload it on YouTube. So let me know. And if you share this with me, we will also upload it on the Biodiversity Atlas India channel on YouTube. Yeah. So it will
okay.
be available on the platform wherever Simran mentions at the end, and we'll also make sure that this is available on the uh, YouTube channel of Biodiversity Atlas India. All right, sorry. Go ahead
Also,
with the next question.
and similar to this, they also asked while uploading the observation data, is it necessary to upload the photo of the butterfly as well? Because they find it a little difficult to capture the butterfly clearly. So, can they just give the names, the species name, and the platform can just
Sure. So currently we do require an image. So if you have a picture of a caterpillar or a pupa or egg or something else, or actually if you don't have a close-up lens, you can at least take a picture of the larvalose plant, right? So if you have those images, you can contribute them as larvalose plant images, larvalose plant observation, and we can still use those. But currently we do require an image for every observation to import in our system. But when we launch the mobile app in a few months, then you don't need an image along with an observation. You'll be able to, if you just see a butterfly flying past, you can just say, I have an individual observation, a single butterfly. And then from your mobile app, all the information will be taken about the place and date and your name and so on and so forth. You just need to then say, it was this particular species of butterfly that I saw today. Yeah. If you want to upload a daily checklist, for example, all the species that you see in a particular day, you'll be able to upload that daily checklist as well, or a regional checklist. If you want to upload checklist of butterflies of Isar Berhampur, you'll be able to upload that. If you have accumulated a checklist of, let's say, butterflies of Bengaluru for the last 10 years, you'll be able to upload that 10-year checklist as well. So you will not need an image for contributing observations in a few months, but right now you do need that. Yeah. So just wait for a few months if you don't have a good camera, and eventually you will be able to contribute a lot. In fact, you may be able to contribute a lot more without images in a few months once the mobile app is ready. So if you don't have camera, don't worry, you will still be able to contribute a lot, and you will be able to make some solid contributions. So we are looking forward to launching the mobile app, and you should look out for that mobile app launch. I think we'll make a lot of noise about it when it is released. It's going to be a wonderful mobile app. It is going to be, I suspect, one of the best mobile apps for a citizen science project out there, not just in India, anywhere in the world. So it is going to be fantastic, and you should look out for it. Yeah, later this year.
So Prajakta asked, does the team plan to spread this initiative in other countries too in future to keep track of butterflies from other countries as well? Or collab with such activity initiatives that already exist in other countries to develop a single platform for butterflies around the world?
I am extremely strongly against imperialism of any kind. Yeah. So I don't want to, let's say, start a website on butterflies of Indonesia or something like that while controlling it from here. Indonesia should develop its own platform. Actually, honestly, we are happy to help Indonesia use this platform, but it won't be called Butterflies of the World. Yeah. It will be called Butterflies of Indonesia, and people from Indonesia will be running that. So we can help them with the technical matters with the platform. And this is something that we are open to doing. So if there are naturalists from other countries, citizen scientists from other countries, governments from other countries who want us to help them with the platform because they may not have the IT core like what we have, so that they cannot organize themselves around a platform. If that is the case, we are perfectly happy to create platforms for them in the name of the country in which they'll be hosted, but those people should really drive that growth. Similarly, within India, I would say people who are in their areas, let's say ISER Behrampur students for that area, or Bengaluru Butterfly Club for Bangalore, Nature Mates for Kolkata and West Bengal in general. We should have these local hubs which drive all the growth in this. Without that, you do not have more broad growth in citizen science and in the scientific data that are generated. I think you have to understand how people think. Normally, people like something which is their own, yeah, rather than which is global. And global, I'm not saying is bad, but if you want this to spread in the local community more deeply, you do need local people taking this up. So that has been our approach. So yes, we are perfectly happy and interested in helping start this sort of projects in other countries, but we don't want to be imperialists who will have a single platform where we hold on to the data, everybody works and contributes to our platform, right? We would like your platform. And for India, sure, we would like one platform so that for a country we have a cohesive vision. But I will also say that people from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, Nepal, not Sri Lanka so much, but certainly from Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh have so far contributed their observations. So we are already South Asia rather than just India. And if there are people from these countries who will continue to contribute a lot of data, then we will call it Butterflies of Indian Subcontinent. Yeah, that's as far as we're willing to go to help people with the same platform. But elsewhere, if somebody wants to start a new website, we are happy to give them our platform to use so that they have their own website as well. Yeah. Okay.
Beautifully said.
All right. So it's 7:36
Yes,
already.
sir.
So what I'll
And
recommend is that you stop the recording right now so that when we upload this on the web on YouTube, this will be a 1.5 hour recording.